Hi, this is Mr. Ye. Today I'd like to go over how to add, how do I multiply fractions, because I believe students need to start with simple math when they get into high school. Although as in middle school, we tend to forget all about fractions when we get to high school. So it's really important that you're gonna start learning by basic stuff first, because that's more important. Before I start learning about multiply fraction, I always told students that there was a common mistake for students is this one. It's actually convert to mixed number. Now, if you realize that all the operation for fractions is always using use improper fractions. So it doesn't matter you're adding, subtract, multiply, and divide. It's always using improper fractions. Okay. So let's start with some simple one that a lot of people make mistake, which is a -2 and 1/2. And since we learn in middle school, we learn about fractions, but when we go to middle school, we learn about negative numbers, but we never put it together. So a lot of students make this kind of mistake. They say, oh yeah, this one is really easy. I know how to do this. So it'd be -4 plus 1, so it's going to be -3/2, but this is wrong. Okay, this is wrong because people think about 2 times -2 plus 1 is equal to -3. The actual answer is actually this, 2 to the 1/2. Now what students need to see, there's a parenthesis here, and that parenthesis is going to help you guide to the right answer. So a lot of you guys don't pay attention to this, a small parenthesis, invisible, but it's there. Now once you see that, that's a parenthesis right here, that's 2 to the 1/2, then you say, okay, well, this means when I finish changing this improper fraction, I need to multiply by -1. So that's going to be 5/2, and I'm going to multiply this by -1. So that is correct. So correct way to change improper fraction. Basically, let me repeat again, it's 2 times 2, it's 4, 4 plus 1 is 5, so it's 5/2, but the negative sign stay in the front. So make sure people understand this part before you go out, because a lot of time we deal with negative numbers, and then when we change it to improper fraction, that is the most common mistake I see. Don't make those mistakes. So this is the wrong way to do it. There is a parenthesis. Always write down a parenthesis, so help you get the right answer. Now we're going to talk about multiplication. Multiplication is a struggle for a lot of students, especially they have to do this one. So let's say 37 over, let's say 13, multiplied by 39 over, let's say 74. Okay, so I see students make a few different kind of mistake is they tended to have cross multiply, and this is very common when you go to high school, but you gotta avoid that. The reason why when you take in algebra 2 is after geometry, and geometry we learn about proportion and we learn about to cross multiply. But here you do not do that. You multiply by across, numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator. So what is supposed to be done is going to be 37 times 39 all over 13 times 74. But this number gets really big. A lot of you guys need a calculator to figure this out. So we're gonna say, well, I'm gonna give you this question, but do it without calculator. So if I have a calculator, I'm just gonna walk on the side, so it'll be 39 times 37. So 7 times 9 is 63. So 7 times 3 is 21. 21 plus 6. So 21 plus 6 goes 27. 3, 9 is 27. 3, 2, that's 11. So that's going to be 3, 4, and 4 and 1. But this is a bad way to do it. This is such a long way to do it. I'm going to show you a much quicker way. So 1, 4, 3 over 13 times 74. So 74 times 13, that's 3 times 4 is 12. 1, 3 times 7 is 21. 21, 22. And this is 74. And 2, 6, 9, so 962. And this answer looks like it's really bad number. So you said, well, isn't it easy way to do this one? So you start thinking about, well, it's any easier way to process this. Now, if I were to use a calculator to figure out this, so I'm gonna get a calculator out and I'm gonna figure out, okay, what's 443 divided by 962? It's an easy way to do this. But I will say this is inefficient. Although my bottom is a proper way to do it, but it's inefficient. So let's look at, is any shorter way to do those questions? So let's look at 13 and 39. And let's look at 13 and 37. Do they have a common factor? So 13 is a prime number and 37 is a prime number. So those two probably don't have a factor to each other because it only can divide by 37, it's only divide by 13. But if I look at across, like diagonally, okay, so 13 and 39, if I will say, well, let's see if they both divisible by a number. It turns out 39 can divide by 13, so that's gonna cancel out, that's gonna be 1, this is 3. And then you can simplify it this way, so 37 times 2, or 35 times 2 is 70, 37 times 2 is 74, this is gonna cancel out. That's gonna be 1, and this is gonna cancel out, left with 2. So the answer is actually 3/2. As opposed to this. Now, if I were to do a calculator on this, and then we'll work it out, you're gonna get 3/2 as well, but it's so hard to simplify. But I'll show you how to simplify. Simplify this, you just start with dividing some number that you know. How do I know if a number is divisible by 3, or in this case, it's probably both numbers probably divisible by 13 or 74. But for any student, you really need to use calculator to figure out, this actually divided by this is going to be 3/2. So let's take, a lot of calculations and also math itself. It doesn't really work it out, but eventually it's going to end up to be 3/2. Okay. So, but this is a much more quicker way to do it. So again, I'm gonna do it again, so that way you don't get confused. 37 times 13 times 39/74. You can multiply top by top, or you can simplify before you multiply. So key thing, simplify before you multiply. 13 and 39, they both divisible by 13. That's gonna be 1, this is gonna be 3, this is a 1, this is 3, this one is 2, sorry. So the answer is equal to 3/2. Much more quicker way to do it. Okay. So this is one of the things that you have to be able to do. Now, what do I mean by improper fraction? All the things need to be turned into improper fraction when you multiply. That makes it easier. Okay. So we're gonna go give a question like maybe 1 and the 1/7 times by, this is gonna be 4/5. So when I multiply this, I wanna change this to improper fraction first. So I wanna make sure this is improper fraction, so it's gonna be 7. 7 times 1 is 7, 7 plus 1 is 8, times 5/4. Now I can multiply this to get 40/28, or I can think about an easier way to do it. So let's look at the common factors. Let's say 1 for denominator, 1 for numerator. You look at this way, you see it. You don't see it here, you don't see it here, but you can look at diagonal as well. 4 and 8 is going to be 1 and 2, so the answer is 10 and 7. Or you can do it the other way, which is 8 times 5 is 40. This is a bad way. Over 28. But if I do that, I'm going to give me 10/7 as well. But this way is much quicker. Okay, that's how you multiply. Now, since we're learning multiply, we're going to also learn dividing too. Dividing is same thing. The only thing in dividing you have to remember is multiply by reciprocal. Okay, so we're going to give you a question. That's what I put on my test, which is 5 and a 5/8. Divided by 15/24. Okay. So This question, you say dividing, well, I thought you say multiplying. Multiplying is same thing as dividing, is only one small twist. And we're going to talk about that twist. But first thing first, what's wrong with this fraction? It's a mixed number. So you need to convert this mixed number to improper fraction. How do I do that? Well, 8 times 5 is 40. 40 plus 5 is 45 over 8. I'm going to divide it by 15 over 24. What happened dividing is just multiply by reciprocal. Okay, we're going to talk about that later. So that's going to be 45, sorry, divided by 8, 45 divided by 8 times by, so I changed it from division sign to multiplication sign. And then I'm going to flip this. Now, one term you have to understand, reciprocal in math, reciprocal, that means you flip the fractions. So reciprocal is going to be 24 over 15. So that's a good word to understand in math. Also, do I want to multiply on top by top, bottom by bottom? The number gets kind of big. So let's see if there's an alternative. Alternative usually is better. That means I'm simplifying before I multiply. I'm going to look at top and bottom. One's even number, one's odd number. One's odd number, one even number. It's probably nothing to simplify. They're divisible by 3 or 4 or 8. So I'm going to look at diagonally. So 8 and 24, they both divisible by 8. So I'm going to simplify that as 1, that is 3. 8 times 3 is 24. And then I'm going to simplify it this way by 5. So I'm going to divisible 15 by 5. Then that's going to be 3. And this one is going to be what? 9. And what's the nice thing is, I here actually can simplify too. 3 and 3 could have simplified. The answer is could be 1. Okay. That's all for multiply and dividing. Sometimes if you multiply by integers, that you have to pay attention to as well. So let's say if I multiply by 2 over 3 times 5. Now 5 always change into improper fractions. So improper fraction is going to be like this. So now I can multiply this across. That's going to be 10 over 3. So that's how you multiply by the integers. Just make it something over 1. And that'll be all for today for multiplying and dividing. And next time we're going to go to adding and subtracting. And that'll be all.